Welcome to all of you. We have a very interesting session, and the more we talked, more we realized that let's get through the slides part quickly so that we'll set the context, but then spend more time talking. And they're both amazing folks, so I think even I'm excited about talking less and listening more. I'm Kamal Aluwalia. I'm the president at Eightfold. So thank you again to all of you. We have some amazing, besides our two panelists, some amazing talent here, people that you do want to talk to, especially Bill Pelser, Mark, Stella, etc. from Josh Bersin team. If you have a question in HR, they have the answers. So the know-it-all. And a lot of our clients are around. American Express team is there. So a lot of people who have actually used our AI platform for amazing results. So I think if you get a chance, absolutely spend time. Secondly, this evening, we're hosting actually a cocktail hour after the pub crawl at Libertine Social. So this evening, tomorrow, please come join us. You'll meet more of the analysts and experts who have been doing this thing for a while with tremendous outcomes. So with that, let me introduce our two esteemed panelists. And I won't read their entire bios because they're pretty extensive and distinguished, but more share with you why you need to pay attention. So let's start with Penelope first. So she serves as the Vice President for Talent at Dick's Sporting Goods, and now being rebranded as DSG?
Dick's Sporting Goods.
Dick's Sporting Goods. And she leads all talent acquisition, talent management, learning and development. And prior to Dick's Sporting Goods, she served as Head of Training and Talent at Centric Brands and built a full talent suite for the organization's HR teams and supporting 350 plus stores and thousands of employees, and has had strategic roles in learning and talent management at L'Oreal. So very experienced, and you'll see that come through, plus an amazing personality. Now, after this session, we are headed down to the casino floor.
Yes, we are.
Because she has actually never gambled and wants to try the slot machines.
So I told Kamal I am happy to gamble on his money.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair. I came here for him, so I should gamble on his money.
Yay!
Now, you do learn faster when you lose your own money.
No, that's what you say.
But that's the kind of conversation we're going to have. When the slides, we weren't sure whether we would get it, say, okay, if the slides don't work, we can always dance. So we're going to have a fun time. Kathy, welcome.
Thank you.
And so Kathy is Senior VP of Research at Josh Bersin Company. How many of you know about Josh Bersin Company? No, put your hands together. So she has been an expert in the field, earlier with Deloitte and now continuing the work here. Lots of experience from her time with IBM, with PwC, with EY, and as a talent leader with McKesson and Kaiser. Now, of course, with the consulting side, you talk a lot, you have a lot of slides, but then you really don't do anything. But that's been very different here.
A little bit.
Now she's making an impact like never before. And again, originally from Austria, and she's worked in Vienna, London, Spain, and now lives in San Francisco. So her passion to make work better and more meaningful. And she has a doctoral degree in maths and a master's degree in mathematics from University of Vienna, Austria. And some of the stuff that you'll see them create, all the talent intelligence stuff and the global workforce intelligence projects, now you can see why they all love data so much. And I think the world has evolved to that, where data is the new oil. So welcome, folks. There are still some seats mattered here. So what we'll do is we'll take a few minutes, tell you a little bit about Eightfold. Kathy is going to talk to you a little bit about some of their research and what they're seeing in the market. And then we'll turn to the story of Dick's Sporting Goods. It's actually fascinating. By the way, show of hands or applause. How many of you have been shopping at Dick's Sporting Goods? You'll be shopping more because they have done some amazing work there. Excellent. Okay, so let's get going. That's the three of us. So net is this, and you'll see a lot of this, and we've always been talking about this. It's all about skills now, right? The reason is what we put was just illustrative. Pick any vertical, and the jobs are changing. But that itself is not good enough, right? We've been talking about the future of work and all that stuff. The next piece is, okay, what specifically is changing? What's getting outdated and what's coming into vogue? Because the key is there's a lot of overlap in these industries now. And just to take a simple example, almost everybody is hiring the software engineers and people with digital skills, everyone. They're all competing with each other. Banks are competing with Google and Amazon and Facebook. They were very good at writing big checks to hire and retain, but their big checks are not big enough anymore. Some of the brands are not cool enough anymore. So all of that is leading to that what exactly is happening, and take oil and gas, most of them actually, few years, this thing will be an energy vertical, right? So I just came back from India, and it's one of the largest consumer of fossil fuels. And absolutely over the next 5 to 10 years, they need to be a leader in consuming renewable fuel. So the focus is moving to actually sustainability, but then where are the people? Where's the talent that can actually drive the transformation? And that leads to the focus on skills, to be very granular so that you can actually make the change effectively, not just talk about it. So we've done a lot of research with that, with our underlying data set, to actually provide that guidance, and that's where we are collaborating a lot with the Josh Bersin team as well. So what we have built over the last few years and is the Talent Intelligence Platform. And I won't get into all the details because that's not the purpose of this session. But the whole idea was how to look at talent holistically and how to use AI to provide better and better guidance and allow you to become more diverse. But mostly if you look at it, if I were to net it out, the 5 questions that we can answer now with our Talent Intelligence Platform are the following. Because as we talk to more and more companies that want to become skills-based organizations, here are the top 5 things on mind. Number 1, what are my employees capable of doing today? How many of you know that? Number 2, how do I provide a personalized upskilling path for each one of my employees? Because all of us don't get to the same role following the same path, right? So how do you actually take the next step forward? And for that, the clear part is to understand the adjacency of skills, learnability, and also people's personal aspirations. Because don't underestimate what somebody is capable of doing if they put their mind and heart to it. Third piece is, if I need to go outside for talent, how do I do it with a rifle shot and be specific and precise versus wasting money all over the place, which is typically what happens with all the spend that happens on that. Fourth part, while I'm doing all this, how do I become more diverse and inclusive with my company? Because that's where a lot of things fall apart, right? You do hire a more diverse set of workforce, but then you're not investing enough to retain those, making them feel comfortable so that they can have sustainable careers with you. And the last part is, how can my talent strategy keep up with my business strategy? Things are changing very quickly. So is talent going to be an enabler and a force multiplier, or is it going to be the laggard that business is running away and it all looks good on PowerPoint, but you're not able to operationalize it? So essence of this whole talent intelligence platform is how to do all that and to do it at scale. And some of these things is what we're going to talk about. Take this example of succession planning. All of you probably have been doing that for top 5, 10, either just that, top 5, 10 employees, or top 5 to 10% of your employees. How to do it for everyone, right? That scale can now be delivered with AI. So that's sort of the context of what's available to you today. And that's essentially what I was sharing, right? So what's changed in the last couple of years is more and more opportunities to talk to CEOs and the commitment to become a skills-based organization. Because at the end of the day, work needs to be tied to work and career growth, right? So that they're enjoying and their work is aligned with what needs to be done for the business. So what we did was to invest a lot more on upskilling, and you'll see a lot of that on our booths, et cetera, as well. And I'll quickly run through what we have done and then invite Kathy to share her perspective as well. First part is to understand the market. What's happening outside so that you're not just focused on what's happening with your teams, but also what the world around you is doing. And bring all of that in so that you can actually look at your job architecture and the specific roles and turn them into future-ready roles with the market intelligence at your fingertips. And this should be done on a regular basis, not an episodic basis, which was the norm. Second part is to understand specifically what your business needs, and then use that to fine-tune the jobs. For example, in an oil company, right? If you're no longer looking for petroleum engineers, that definition is very different. So, and how do you make that transition? Who is capable of doing what? With our platform, we're actually very accurate in predicting the next 2 roles over the next 5 years for an individual. And that depends on the context and the company, small company, big company, what's the environment you're looking for. So understand specifically what you need. And then your talent network, and some of the brands here are massive. How do you actually leverage that talent network to serve your needs? Now, I'll give you a couple of quick examples. Most companies are looking to have a talent pipeline, and most of our clients are filling their open recs. As much as 30 to 70% of the recs are being filled from the talent network itself, people who you've already seen. How that helps is time to hire, much faster. Cost of hire, much lower. Quality of hire, much higher, because now you have consistency. And what we're looking to do with upskilling is giving our clients the opportunity to upskill your talent network also, not just your employees. The cost of a class is nothing compared to cost of hire and the time it takes. So, folks, by the way, there's some other seats here. So if you come on in, feel free to come in to the front, a little more room here. And the next part is that personalized upskilling path that identify the people, but not just that I'll pick 5 here. There may be another 5 who are more interested, and probably another 20 that are more interested. They just need that guidance. How do I get there? Also, what inspires people is across a wide spectrum. So role of mentors, the role of other people who are doing well in the organization, how do you showcase that so that it becomes a little easier for others to follow those illustrious footsteps? And the last part is to make it easy for them to actually get there, right? So the reason why we picked this thing about the DNA sequencing is that is exactly what we need to do. Provide that granular path for everyone to grow with you as your company is actually evolving and growing. So we don't think upskilling is an episodic thing. We think this will become the new requirement, because all of us, whatever we learned in schools is all outdated. Whatever we knew or the way we worked before COVID is outdated. So as things are evolving, we need to make sure that we have a dynamic platform that's allowing us to actually evolve with that. So with that, let me invite Kathy to actually share what she's seeing across the world.
Thank you, Kamal. And this was fantastic. Great. Yeah, so I'll try to not go too long because we really want to hear from you, Penelope. So I'll try to contain myself and not talk too long. Clearly, I also need some upskilling or reskilling because I got lost in the hotel before I came here. That's why I was almost late. So we're always upskilling all the time. So let me talk a little bit what we see in the market. So no surprise to anybody, quit rates are really, really high still. I read a lot in the news today about inflation. If you read the news, there was some news about how high inflation is. It's like, I don't know, 9% or something like that in the US. But people are still leaving all the time, even when companies are potentially have hiring freezes or potentially even RIFs or something like that. People are still leaving. So your employees are really in the driver's seat today. So your employees are really looking for skills development, for growth, and for opportunities to grow their careers. So that shift started in a pandemic, really, that people felt very empowered to say, like, what can you do for me? So that's the one thing that's happening. Of course, CEOs are also looking at the skills gap, and this is a study that is from Korn Ferry. I'll also share tomorrow when we talk about healthcare specifically, that in healthcare, the very first time in 17 years, healthcare CEOs are more concerned about labor shortages and the skills gap than about financial cost. So it's really not just a CHRO issue, an employee issue, but then also a CEO issue. So you really need to focus on upskilling and reskilling, or we call it reskilling, but same thing. And why is this happening? Why is the skills gap getting bigger and bigger? And Kamal, you touched on it a little bit too. Industries used to be very clearly defined. So our industries were always like, you're in consumer products, you're in financial services, you're in healthcare, you're in technology. But today, all of these industries are converging. GM, for example, just announced their electric vehicle a couple of days ago. So they're a car manufacturer, but now they're going into electric and self-driven vehicles. Of course, now they're more a technology company. Healthcare is getting into technology too, and technology companies, conversely, get into healthcare and pharmacy and online retail pharmacies. Consumer product companies or retail companies get into healthcare. So all of these industries are converging really quickly, and you have to reinvent your company, and you have to reinvent with that the skills of your people, the roles of the people, and how you deploy people. So it used to be that you could say, okay, I'm a retail company, and I have, as we hear from you, right? We have retail store managers, and the skill sets were pretty clearly defined. But today, they need to know a lot of different things, not just digital things, but many other things, and we'll hear from you what that is. So the skills profiles are changing so quickly that it's very hard to keep up, and that's why we needed AI too, because it used to be pretty easy to keep up, maybe, but now if skills are changing all the time, and each of us has literally thousands of skills, if you multiply that by, 55,000 people as you have in Dick's Sporting Goods, it gets overwhelming very soon. So industries are converging. Employee experience is a big theme too, of course, because your employees are in the driver's seat. And so what the experience is that you provide to your employees really, really matters. And this is a heat map of a study that we did. I could talk about that for an hour, but I won't. That heat map goes, the darker the color, the bigger the impact was of this area, of this little slice. So your employees are really looking for an inclusive environment. Kamal talked about skills-based hiring, skills-based development, skills-based deployment, really driving inclusion and diversity and equity. Your employees are also looking for something more from your company than just making money. They're looking for you to invest in your employees. All of those kind of things you can do when you reskill and give people really the power to reskill themselves. So the paradigm has really shifted from reskilling being a top-down process to a bottom-up process, and your employees really empowering them to reskill themselves. And this is really how careers change. So it used to be that maybe 50 years ago or so, you joined a big company, you joined a good company, and that was your career for life, right? You joined IBM, you joined GE, for example, then you had a good career and that was it. And then it got to be that people said, well, you kind of own your own careers, but it was a hands-off thing. So the organizations said, you own your own career, go have at it. But then you don't get what you need as an organization, of course, where you need people to go. So that was the stage number 2. And then the third stage that we call Career 3.0, it was basically your job and your work defined you. So you said, okay, this is great, I have a good job. Maybe I'm an accountant, then I'm going to be an accountant 2, then I'm going to be a senior accountant, then I'm going to be a director of accountant, maybe I'm going to be a VP, and then I'm going to retire. But today, because these jobs are not that linear anymore, and they are merging all the time, and by the time you have defined a job, of course, it's going to be obsolete. Your skills are really what defines your career. So you really got to focus on understanding what are your skills and what are your people's skills, and then help people build that career. Let's talk a little bit about skills and capabilities and roles and jobs, because we see them a little bit differently. So let's start with the skills, which is the smallest item. So a skill, each of us have actually literally thousands of skills that we probably don't even know about. A skill could be starting your computer or operating Excel, right? That's a skill. But how you use it makes a big difference. So just because 2 people know how to operate Excel, one of the people might be an accountant, another person might be a researcher basically that's doing HR research, right? So the context really, really matters in those skills. And that's what we call capabilities. And for your company, and we'll hear from you, Penelope, a little bit too, what are the business capabilities that you need? Because that really depends on who you are as an organization and what drives success for you. So that's what we call capabilities. So, and when we talk about reskilling, it's really amping up both skills and capabilities. And then you cluster all these capabilities into roles. So you could say, well, all of these different capabilities go into a role of an HR business partner, for example. And you have several of these HR business partners. And then depending on who they're deployed to, that could be the HR business partner for the tech group, that could be the HR business partner for the finance group. These are different roles, but all one job. So the jobs are what in your HCM system. And the jobs, as you all know, when you redefine your jobs, usually they're obsolete as soon as you have created a job, right? Nobody actually does what's in your job description. That's why you need to go back to the skills and capabilities, because as soon as you have written down the job, something else comes around, a new technology, a new requirement, consumers need something different, your customers need something different, and then you gotta basically go back to the basics of the capabilities. Let's talk a little bit about tech. I don't want to go too deep there, but Kamal talked about the Talent Intelligence Platform or database, and that's kind of the middle layer here. But the Talent Intelligence database really gets data from many different places. So all of the areas, what you're doing learning, of course, figures into your talent needs to consume and also feed into your skills taxonomy and skills talent intelligence database. Your talent mobility, your career aspirations, your career paths, all of that needs to feed in. Pay and rewards, of course, very important too. How does it impact when you're, for example, taking on an assignment, not a new job, but a new assignment? Does it impact your pay? Can you pay for skills? Pay and rewards, very important too. And then, of course, recruiting as well. So all of those areas all fit together to your talent intelligence database. And all of that, Eightfold is actually collecting and aggregating with billions of data points of people, basically. So that's really all of those areas that need to factor in there, and why that's so hard to do without, or actually impossible without AI, gets complicated very soon, right? So the last thing I wanted to talk about, and we'll talk more about this tomorrow in our launch of the Global Workforce Intelligence Project that we are doing with Eightfold as well, so I'm not going to talk a lot about that. But reskilling is a really, really important point, but it's not the only point of creating more skills in your organization. So of course you're going to do recruiting, right? So recruiting will always be there. Internal recruiting, external recruiting. I know some of the data that Eightfold has shows that many organizations actually now recruit 50%, 60% of their people, sometimes even 70% of their people internally. So of course you're going to do recruiting internally and externally. You also need to, of course, retain people. I showed the quit rates. Of course you're going to work on creating a better employee experience, helping people develop and grow, and with that, they'll want to stay with your company as well. Then you're going to do the reskilling, and then the last item, also redesigning jobs themselves. Because if you don't think about the jobs differently, the best skills won't be able to kind of close the capacity gap that you might have. So all of those things are really used to be standalone areas, but they really need to work together. So when you think about your talent acquisition COE, your employee experience group, your learning and development group, your organization effectiveness org design group, usually these are different COEs, but they all have to work together, as Penelope is going to talk about as well. So that's a little bit about, and I think that was my last slide. Yes.
Yep, awesome.
Okay. Thank you.
So let's switch to someone who's actually put it all together and done it. Penelope, tell us a little bit about Dick's Sporting Goods.
So overall, right, for all of you all Dick's Sporting Goods shopper, thank you. First, thank you for shopping in our stores. We are Dick's Sporting Goods, we are Golf Galaxy, we are Public Lens, we are Going, Gone, and we're now also House of Sports. If you haven't been to a House of Sports yet, you want to go. Dick's Sporting Goods is a phenomenal company. We're based in Pittsburgh. This is where our headquarters are. We have 850 stores. 850 stores that are run like a mom and pop store, but with 100+ employees per store. This is a big house. Dick's Sporting Goods is 50,000 employees, about a $13 billion company today, and with the ambition of growing to 25 shortly. So we are growing, we're mighty, we are proud, but we are humble. This was a company that was formed by one person. His grandson holds the reins today, together with our brilliant CEO, Lauren Albert. We are still caring, looking after our employees as we did when we started, with a lot of empathy, with a lot of care, and growing their career for us is our strength and our power.
Amazing. I do shop at Golf Galaxy, but my game hasn't improved.
Yes. Yes.
That's on me. I need to play more. Tell us about the whole upskilling initiative that you launched way back before this thing became popular in the last year or two.
Yeah.
So what was the strategy behind that? Walk us through all of that.
So this is a bit of a long story. I'm gonna give you the skinny version of it. During the pandemic, us retailers were hit with, like all of us were hit with something we didn't know, and we had to rebound very quickly. Rebound to a new customer, rebound to taking care of our employees, rebound to distributing our goods differently, facing supply chain issues, yada, 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 right? Everything I'm telling you, you know already. And now we're looking internally, we're looking at our folks and going, but who really does matter the most within our organization? To take us from that $12 billion company to $25 billion company, it's not Penelope working in HR is going to do that, unless we win big, Kamal, tonight. But I am not the one who's going to do that. The person who's going to do that is the head of my household, and that's the store managers in our stores. And why them? Because they have a pulse on their community, they have a pulse on their employees, they have a pulse on our shareholder and stakeholders, so they are the heart and soul of our organization. Well, if I want to upskill those guys, I also need to upskill their ranks, right? So Dick's Sporting Goods, real quickly, your store manager, reporting into you, you have assistant store managers, usually 1 or 2 per stores, right? And reporting into them, you have leads who have different functions. So I have a golf lead, I have a ski lead, I have a bike lead. Well, we needed to upskill all those guys.
Yep.
And in order to do that, we did the monumental task on an Excel spreadsheet, honey, of course, of looking at, well, first of all, what are the skills those folks have to support the growth of our store managers, to allow for our store managers to do more of managing the store rather than directing work. Does that make sense? We're past, when you were talking about how the workforce is changing, we're not order takers anymore, right? We need to be embarked in that journey of being successful, and our store manager is the person who's going to do that. So we needed to upskill them with a lot of learning, caring, coaching, feedback giving, but while upskilling them, I needed to upskill my entire workforce. So our story started with, we need, in order to remain competitive post-pandemic and even during the pandemic, we need to change. And we didn't know what change looked like, so we invented what change would look like with your guys' support, because we came to the realization that we didn't know what we didn't know. And managing HR on an Excel spreadsheet is really complex. I've done it for 25 years. I'm done. I'm done with Excel.
What I find so fascinating, Penelope, is this is not digital skills, right? You were not looking actually for people to just do digital skills, because a lot of times the skills gap is all about digital, but this was not about digital, right? This was how you a better store manager. Like,
yes.
What does it mean to be a store manager?
So
very different.
What it means to be a store manager is not how to use a new media platform or how to becoming a tech guru. That's not what my store managers do. My store managers, they talk to their community, they recruit, they attract talent, they care about their folks, they manage I used the word household. It was really targeted to use it this way because they have to care for about 100 employees, give them coaching, give them feedback, understanding them, being flexible. Silly example. You have a store. In order to run your store, you have your payroll, you fight with, operations to get you more payroll that you don't get, yada, yada, yada. Then you have a truck that comes to your store. It doesn't look like anything, right? A truck shows up, so you have to prepare for your employees, your leads, to be there at the store to empty a truck. Have you ever emptied a truck? Anybody here? You have? Isn't that a fascinating thing, to empty a truck? It is so freaking physical. It is not even funny. Then you empty those boxes, right? And then you put them, and then you open them, and then put them on the floor. Anybody who's worked in retail in their younger age, right, has to empty a truck. The problem is, what happens when the truck doesn't show up? What do you do with those payroll hours? You cannot say to your guys, go home.
Yeah.
They cannot go home, right? So now you have an opportunity to teach them something. So I had to upskill my store manager to be able to teach them something. And it can be putting bikes together, right? It can be, making a new game plan. It can be changing the structure. It can be having a conversation with another employees to say, what do you want to do when you grow up? So all those skills, hard skills, soft skills, are not digital skills. Yeah. But yet they're skills, and they're skills that my guys and gals need to have in order to run our stores. Make sense?
Yeah, I love that.
See?
See?
How did things change during pandemic? What changed about your business during those first year or so?
So we shut down, right? The stores shut down, of course, for a little while. And then where we really, I think I'm a believer in luck, right? We just really got lucky. We were ready for this. We didn't know we were ready for this, but we were. We already had a very powerful IT team that was looking at delivering with our e-com platform, quicker, faster. So we already had some kind of infrastructure in place to allow us to do order online, pickup in store, right? So, or curbside pickup. So that went really fast. What you have to think about, people were like, oh yeah, you had the technology. No, what we had, and our biggest asset is we had the people. And we had the people who could think in each and every one of our stores, not as a direct to consumer, but those store managers could reinvent their job and their team's job to all of a sudden becoming mini distribution centers. Think about it. For those who worked in retail before, what a shift, right? You're not selling to someone anymore. You're putting orders together. You're putting labels on packages. You're getting those labels, those packages to the drop-off area. So that's step one. And then when we reopen our stores, it was curbside pickup. What a beautiful thing. You don't even have to get in the store anymore, right? So you put your order in, but there is a slew of humans in the back that have to organize even something as technical as racks of clothes in a certain way, because stuff doesn't move the same way, whether you have a direct-to-consumer or you're picking it up in the stores. So we had to quickly upskill, but I do believe the reason why we were so successful during the pandemic, it's because our people are great people, and they were ready with phenomenal store managers to switch one behavior to another one.
I love that, because what a great example of how a job was completely obsolete.
Completely
really, right? It was not the job anymore, although you didn't change the job titles. Of course, it was still the store manager, right? But they did something completely different from one moment to the next. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And also, amazing. I mean, I need to say this, but we had here in the US, so we're US-centric, right? The exporting goods. But we also had major disruption during the pandemic, right? Earlier during the pandemic, and it became extremely obvious that we needed to take care and respond to our customer in a different fashion, right? I often use the example of my father's a golfer, and avid golfer, loves golf, not great at it, but avid golfer, and always wanted me to play. And I've always thought, well, how do I walk in a Golf Galaxy store or PGA store, I mean, any golf store, right? As a 50-year-old woman and say, can you show me how to play? What clubs do I pick up? And all those golf guys, they are in their late 50s, fine, late 60s, let's say, most of them, and they're white dudes. Well, if I'm a black or colored woman walking into our stores, I don't know how to engage. It's a new sport. It's difficult for me to say I don't know how and have someone in front of me who doesn't look like me. So we also had to face this. So part of our upskilling also, we have a phenomenal woman in our team called Paloma Donardis, who is our head of D&I. And she was phenomenal at helping us reskilling also from a human's perspective. What does it mean to be a store manager, right? Or a teammate in our stores to fulfill the needs of our communities at large. And I'm taking the golf example because it's an easy one, it's an obvious one. But it goes the same for anybody, walking in our stores.
That's a great story. So you should get a full Callaway set, and they're very forgiving clubs, so you'll be fine.
I will be fine.
But that, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Right? Because all sports are actually expanding. So how do you actually make it easy for people to walk in and enjoy the experience?
And meet them at their level, right?
Yep.
So meet them where they are.
Yep.
I am a long distance runner. I've been a long distance runner all my life. I walk in a store. I already know what shoe I want because I've done my research and all that. But what a delight when I meet somebody who loves my sport, right?
Yep.
And we can talk shit. So we can talk about blisters and socks and shoe and bouncing. And,
We could do that too.
right, you and I can do that.
Exactly.
But it's just like, and I'm like, no, I'm not buying just shoe. I'm gonna buy the shorts. I'm gonna come back to your store because I'm building that connection. And that's what Dick's Sporting Goods is becoming today, is we are a service provider of sports greatness. Right? Let's put it this way. Please don't quote me. But this is exactly who we want to be. When you have a little human who comes to your store for the first time to pick up their first bat, their baseball bat, have you seen the eyes, and I'm a grandmother, right? But have you seen the eyes of a little person picking up their first baseball glove? You know they're sleeping with it, right? You know that bat and that glove is going to be next to their bed. Well, you need someone who cares. You need someone who's going to be completely bought into their littleness to sell them a bat that costs $15. But you need to do this moment right. And talking about upskilling, that's what we had to do. We had to skill our people to know how to do that as well. Does that make sense? So upskilling is not all about IT and tech and all those big words. And no. Skilling people to do the job they have to do today.
Amazing. So how did Eightfold fit into this journey of yours?
Excel. No, I'm just kidding. So I'm a bit of a nerd. Nothing like Brad Cohen here, who is on my team, but I'm a bit of a nerd, and I've always been fascinated by how can we have a machine do the grunt work, right, that a human doesn't need to do, basically. And so about 15 years ago or so, when I was still at L'Oreal, we started looking into Gloat and Fuel 50. I met Josh a couple of times, and it was just fascinating platform, right? Understanding how we could pull that information, put it together. And then it started clicking in my head, and Brad was along the exact same wavelength as me to say, yeah, we can do better than this, right? We can figure out not what you are doing today and what skills you have to do for your job today, but what you have done in the last 20 years of your experiences, right, that you don't even think about. But when you were in college and you were a waiter at, I was about to say Hooters, were you? There's only chicks at Hooters, right? I wouldn't know. But I don't know why Hooters popped up. I'm so sorry. It must be Vegas. But when you were a waiter, right, at Olive Garden, what skills did you have then? Well, leveraging your platform, leveraging the AI component of your platform, I can actually go fetch without even you knowing, and I'm picking on this poor guy. Sorry, I'll buy you
She
beer.
went to UCLA.
Yeah, that's fine. Oh, sorry. so I can actually figure out what skills you may have had that would be of interest for another job that I may have in my organization. The problem with large organization is that we don't know what skills we have at large, right? We don't know what jobs people want to do, and people don't know what opportunity they have. And at breakfast today with Kamal, we talked about it, is I'm the head of talent acquisition. I hate talent acquisition. Why is it that I have to go and hire outside when I have 50,000 humans in my house? Mm-hmm. Why? I should have all the skill sets that I've ever dreamed of in my house. Or I should be able to recognize what those folks would want to do when they grow up and help them get there. So UCLA guy who is working in my store as a college student, because I got a slew of them, how do I keep him engaged, excited? How do I help him write his career path? And I love what you were saying earlier is, I had to write my career path, right?
That's right.
But I was following somebody's track, right? L'Oreal, big house, centric. We already had when I grow up, I'm going to be that. But that doesn't exist anymore. I talk to my kids, they want to write their own story. Well, my college student working in our stores wants to write his own story. I just need to help him. And if you, Eightfold, can help me, and I know you are, help me write that story for them, it's a thing of beauty. And there's no more Excel spreadsheet. Who in this room manages succession on an Excel spreadsheet? Be honest. Lie to me. You're all liars. You're all doing it. You're all doing it. Or on a PowerPoint that nobody opens again. True? I know you are. You never open it again. Big talent review, dog and pony show, binders with the tabs, the sticker on it, yeah, the assistant on the floor pulling the... We all have done it, guys. Those days are over because of you all. Because all that can be done in one platform where we can actually cross-check that we're doing it right. So,
what I found so fascinating when we talked about succession management, tell us a little bit more what are you using instead of the 9-box and how you got rid of the 9-box, because I think everybody is struggling with that.
Okay.
And say, we don't like it, but nobody knows what else to do.
So I'm not going to pretend, so disclaimer here, I'm not going to pretend I know what I'm doing, right? But so our CHRO is brilliant. She comes from Ford. My new colleague, Michael Kenneth in HR, comes from Honeywell, with a big career at Pepsi before, and I was coming from L'Oreal Centric and Dassault before, and we're looking at it and we're like, $9, and then they go $9, and so instead of going, all of us, we actually just sat in a room together and say, okay, how do we make this better? And so we have redefined, and the reason why I put a disclaimer on it is we're in year 1. This is our first go around. So will that work? Honestly, I don't know. It was very beneficial for our talent conversation during this talent review we just finished. Is it the way of the future? It would be extremely arrogant of me to say it is, because I only have one cycle. So I would like to tell you the story in 2 years. Welcome back. But what we did was to really identify a high potential and what does that look like. And at Dick's Sporting Goods, in any point in the organization, well, high potential is somebody, right, who can go to leadership level in the next foreseeable future, I would say. And so we redefined high potential, promotable player, maybe just one leadership level, right? Mm-hmm. And then utility player, well-placed player, you're good. I'm a well-placed player, the good people you can count on, but who don't necessarily want to go do this and that. And then sideline players, which is our 5th definition, who are the folks who are not in the right seat. And it doesn't mean that they're not good. It just means that they're not doing the job they're good at. So even for those folks, right, those sideline players, Eightfold is a gold mine for us to identify what skill they have. Again, going back to Olive Garden, poor thing, I'm sorry. But again, what skills do you have that you can apply in a different area of our business? And that really allowed us to look at talent in a holistic way, look at the entire organization, having better conversation also with managers to say, we need to be transparent with folks and really tell them if we think they're talented for our organization, the future of our organization. So it allowed us to be more transparent, which is what we owe to our folks. And it allowed us to also focus, because let's be honest, my high potential and promotable player are the people I'm going to invest the most money in, right? Most money, most project, most attention. Those guys are going to be the CFO of tomorrow, CHRO of tomorrow, CMOs of tomorrow. So how do I keep on growing them and exciting them by aligning them to projects? And that's my segue to asking me about projects.
Yes.
I'm kidding.
Yes, please.
I'm just kidding. But doesn't answer your question.
Yeah, it totally answers my question, because what I love what you just said too is your philosophy that everybody is a potential, high potential.
Yeah.
Even the sideline players, they're just in the wrong role. And I think that's a different way of looking at it. They're not bad, they're just not placed in the right place. And it's up to you basically as an organization to find them the right place where they can thrive and be the high potential that actually is within them. I think that's a really good way of thinking about that too.
Yeah, because they're horrendous stories, and it's not a dicks, not at all, but horrendous stories where you have had people for 20 years in your organization, all of a sudden, oh, well, they're not good anymore.
Yeah.
Whose fault is it?
Yeah.
Right?
It's not theirs, right?
Whose fault is it? It's not them.
Yeah.
Who didn't take them along the way, right? Mm-hmm. Why did we not give them that feedback before? Why is it that we didn't give somebody who gave 20 freaking years of their life to an organization the opportunity to becoming better? Yeah. Why is it? And if in our whole heart of heart, we can say, didn't help because didn't want, then you're out.
Yeah.
You're out, fine. But until we do that, we're unfair to our workforce.
Exactly right. Yeah, it's your accountability as an organization, right, to help them.
It's our responsibility.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, that's great. So tell us more about how you reskill people or upskill people, because that's maybe where the projects go into.
Yeah. So we've been working with those guys super well because we didn't know, let it be clear. We kind of knew what we wanted to do, but we didn't know how. So it's fantastic to have a partner who is very agile, because then you can call a Chris all the time and say, oh, I changed my mind. And he goes like, oh God. But they make it happen, right? So they're designing a lot of the quirks and tweaks and things that we wanted to have for our store organization as we go along. So we are writing that story together with Eightfold. So absolutely beautiful partnership there, for sure. And so the way we did it was we rewrote, quote unquote, job responsibilities. Not so much a job description, not so much a job profile, but more a list of responsibilities that we attached to our business of tomorrow. So we rewrote that for the store managers and ASM, leads, etc. And then we are building now what skills do you need for those responsibilities, and then aligning our workforce to say, all right, well, this is where I am on this scale for each of these skills. And then the magic happens. This is where I am, but boom, those are the learning that we have that are available for you to actually grow this skill set that you may or may not have. Does that make sense? And with a very big partnership from their managers to say, hey, by the way, you say you have this skill set, but do you really in this context? Or have you thought about this? Because I see that you're good, but you're not great. So maybe there are opportunities. So we're leveraging a lot of learning activities. And for me, who comes from a learning background, learning activities are as much going to a Harvard class as it is being assigned to a 3-week project. Mm-hmm. So we needed a platform that is malleable enough, agile enough to be able to attach learning activity, a TED Talk, a book, watch Ted Lasso. Who has watched Ted Lasso? Yes. Watch Ted Lasso if you want to become a better leader, right? So all those things are listed as learning elements to fill those skill gaps.
Yeah.
What we're working on now with the Eightfold team is having an individual development plan so that folks can actually say, well, this is the priority that I'm going to be working on. And hey, manager, do you agree? Let's build that individual development plan together and let's follow up on it, right, as we go along.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So you connected also to your LMS or your LXP?
Yes.
Yeah. What do you use for LMS or LXP? Or do you want to say? You don't have to say.
No, we can. A broken LMS system.
Oh, okay.
No, a non-phenomenal LMS system.
Okay.
Let's put it this way.
Non-phenomenal.
Yeah, non-phenomenal
Okay.
LMS system. Yeah.
Okay. But so the courses that come in there, the learning courses come in there, but then also the activities, the projects, the assignments, right?
Yes.
Because that's where learning happens too. Yeah.
And I think 70% of the learning is going to happen there, right?
Yeah.
So on an assignment, you don't know what you don't know. You don't really know something until you practice. Your golf, my running.
Yep.
So you have to get in it to understand what you're missing. So we're going to be attaching some of those projects also for our store managers and leads and assistant store managers into the platform to give people an opportunity to upskill as well.
That's great. So
I did misspeak earlier. She went to USC, not UCLA. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Counts.
So folks, we will be able to take a few questions, but don't you appreciate how she paints that picture? Like you can just see the store and the development. You're just amazing how you're actually laying that out. So if you have any questions, please raise your hands. Go ahead. Can you speak a little louder?
Apropos to the comment you just made about formal instruction from the LMS versus actually doing something hands-on in the context of the project. You may or may not have measured this, but I'm curious if you know roughly what the allocation was. Let's say if there were 100 units of time that needed to be spent to achieve some degree of skill acquisition, how many units of time were spent with formal instruction, and how many with hands-on practicing?
Do you know what? I really think I want to say 70% needs to be hands-on, right? Formal instruction about 20%. I really think that's what's very helpful too is the coaching along. And you've done more research than I ever have, right? But even when I was in manufacturing and supply chain, you teach a little bit, you have people practice, make mistake, then you have someone who knows how to do the job, mentor them or coach them through the experience. That's when things come together. Right, would you agree? I mean, you nerds of HR?
yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Would
absolutely.
you say 70%?
Yeah. No.
Ish? 70, 80%?
Yeah, I think when you think about your own career too, right?
Yeah,
most
yeah.
of the learning and most of the things that really take you forward are the work that you do, the projects, the assignments, the actual applying it. Like, I don't think like a learning course necessarily changed my career. I can't think of a single
neither.
one.
No, it helped me building a stronger network when I went to learning courses, whether internally or externally.
Yeah.
External courses are very good to exchange best practices, but until you put them in practice,
Exactly.
I would say 70, 80%. Sarah, do you agree?
Yeah.
What would you say? Because she goes like, this. You would,
Just about.
everything is so
It depends. It depends.
Yeah. Yeah. But I would say 70, 80%. Yeah.
We have a mic as well. Any other question?
So how long did your transformational journey take, and what was the most impactful thing you learned from it?
How long did it take? We're still in it to win it, right? I don't think those transformations are going to ever stop because there will be a next iteration of moving forward. We are, hold me honest, Chris in here somewhere? When did you and I get engaged, Chris? About a year ago. So I want to say about a year and 3-4 months ago, we started thinking about upskilling our workforce. And a year ago, we started working with Chris, with whom I'm not engaged, just to be clear. But we started working closely with them. And how long is it going to take? Forever. Because once you are upskilling on something, people are going to want to learn something new. And our business is very dynamic, right? So today we have 850 stores. Tomorrow we may have 1,000 stores, or we may develop our e-com exponentially. And so I'm going to need different skill set. But what's very important, what I loved about what you said, Kamal, and you said the same thing, is we need to look at our workforce as a competitive advantage together with the business, right? So, and the issues that CHROs have today is the same issue as the business. We are the biggest risk of our business, right? And we are the biggest opportunity as well. So non-ending story.
Steve, there's another question there.
Hi. How was the onboarding or the implementation of this process in the organization? What did you need to do with the employees to be part of it and to accept the whole process?
Change management is a big one, super big one. You need to assign a couple of people on your team to just do that. You need to have ambassadors within your teams to show that they believe, for sure, quoting from Ted Lasso. What's super important too is to show them what's in it for them and to work with them. So when we developed those job profiles, we didn't do it in a vacuum. We didn't do it in our office, right, Brad? We actually did it with them. So we actually did it with the store managers. And we had them try and test and see if that was true and reformat the language for us. So being very hands-on with our store managers, our district managers, our regional vice president, and creating a bunch of supporters. And then there was a lot of road showing. Our COO is Don Germano, is an amazing human and a very giving human. And so he took, you know, me and Lisa and Brad and Brian on road shows to actually explain to our stores what we were trying to achieve, so that they would understand, they would have an opportunity to have their questions answered, their fear removed, and then that's how we are changing one person at a time.
So
and celebrating, I'm sorry, Kamal, but celebrating wins also.
Absolutely.
Right, so that's a phenomenal affair when you can say, wait, this guy is no longer an assistant store manager, being promoted to store manager. So once you celebrate those moments, that is also very important in your change management journey.
Penelope, I have a question, sorry to interrupt here, but how was the uptake? Did employees love it? Do your employees want it? Because we always hear like, oh, how do you get people to learn?
No. My folks love it.
Yeah, they love it,
They love
right?
it. So our we made it super sexy from a platform standing point. That is also very important for whomever is making those decisions. But it is very sexy, it's very easy to use, you can stop and go as you choose, you go in the platform, you update, you know, it's almost, not gamified, I hate this word, but it's a very easy process to go through, the colors are appealing, it is not complex to go into. The worst thing you want to do when you bring in any kind of platform, anything you're doing, is to make it more than 3 clicks, right? After 3 clicks, I'm out. If you can get to the information very quickly, then that's what the Eightfold team has been able to do with Brad Cohen here, is just to make it easy to access and pleasant to look at.
So there was no push, right? The people really wanted it.
Oh
Once
yeah,
they understood
they
it.
were ready,
Yeah, that's
super
what,
ready. Yeah.
So you're all going to buy more from Dick's Sporting Goods, right?
Yeah, because I need a bonus. I have 2 college tuitions to pay. So if you guys can keep on just fueling our store, it'd be great. I mean, legit 2 college tuitions. So keep it coming.
Steve, there's a question here. Here's the mic.
Thank you. I think you may have answered it partly, but still, what markers do you track in your journey to ensure that the strategy is working as expected? And how early do these ROI markers show up in your journey?
So the one that we're going to track is turnover, promotion rate are the 2 big ones, right? Less turnover means people are happy, they're staying in-house. Promotion rate means that we're upskilling in the right way and we are fueling our pipelines. I think those are the 2 that we're going to be using. We're also very good. Brian Finley's team, Brian's here, he's there. He doesn't want me to tell, but he's right there. So Brian is our HR head, HRIS head. And so Brian is also very good at doing pulse and engagement surveys. And I think satisfaction is one thing that we're going to be tracking also very closely, right, Brian, to make sure that we track and our folks are tracking with us. Those are the 3 things that are the key components, in my opinion. Brian, is there anything else that you can think of?
On
Internal mobility?
Fantastic. So
Does that answer your question? Super. Yeah.
you'd also shared about the career in a Dick's Sporting Goods store, right? Because it's actually a very interesting, very complex job. You want to actually share a little bit of detail about that?
I think folks don't realize that when they walk into a retail store, there's a career there. It's actually a very freaking cool career. You're a store manager with Dick's Sporting Goods, and your salary is probably between, I want to say, between 80 and 150, depending on the size and the complexity of the store and the location. Well, that's a nice salary to make, right? So there are career pathways to having a true career in a retail store. Those are respectable careers. Those are fascinating careers where you learn how to manage a P&L. You learn how to manage humans. You learn how to manage the supply chain. And you're just part of a community that's so close to your store and can impact it directly. We have not only a big foundation at Dick's Sporting Goods, but we also have direct impact on our communities. And we give our store managers a lot of power to impact the community in which they live. So I think retail is not something to frown on in terms of career pathing.
Absolutely. And plus, the employee discounts for all the sporting goods.
Yes. Yes. Do you want to know how many pairs of running shoes I have?
How many?
This is insane. 12. I can switch them all the time.
Can you give me
Excellent.
a little bit of
I can
discount
give them
too?
to you.
Yeah, please.
Come. What shoe size are you?
6.
You're done a lot.
Dick's Sporting Goods, let me take you there.
Yeah.
Las Vegas has one. So folks, we are on time. How about put your hands together for our wonderful
Thank
guest?
you.